Welcome, everybody, to the Jim Masters Show Live. How are you, and you, everybody all around the world? It is good to see you. We welcome you. It is Sunday live here at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm your host, Jim Masters, and thanks for joining us. We really hope you had a terrific day, because if you didn't have a terrific day, guess what? We're going to make your day terrific with our very special guest. We have Melissa Manchester here on the show, and we're so excited. She's extraordinary, and of course, she has, and we had a great conversation just before it went live on the air about the impacts that she's made, not only in the music industry, but in our society as well. She is somebody who really cares about subjects and topics and things that are important to her. We're going to talk about that because she's been working on some absolutely extraordinary projects of late during all of this time where we have been pausing in our lives. And I think that's really beautiful. And again, that's just a testament to the type of person she is. She's an extraordinary and brilliant talent, and we're going to welcome her to our show in just a minute. If you're watching for the very first time, well, I am your host, Jim Masters, a professional television and radio personality, presenter, host, voiceover artist, journalist, actor, writer, producer, stage MC. Been doing this work for quite a few years. And we launched this series. This is the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series about 30 weeks ago as of tomorrow. 30 weeks of shows every single day live. And sometimes we've even done 2 shows in a day. We've done food festival shows. We've gone on location. We have guests that come in from entertainment and all kinds of different backgrounds: health and wellness, television, film, music, science, culinary arts, comedy, inspiration. It's really beautiful. And what's also really beautiful is the fact that our viewers call themselves Lovities. And they call this Lovity Hall, and they say, I am Mr. Lovity. And how that happened was a few weeks ago, or actually a couple of months ago, I was saying that the show is, positive. We try to put smiles on people's faces, and it's about light, love, and levity. And I sort of flubbed the love and levity, and I said lovity. And then everybody said, my God, I love that word. Keep using that word. We want that word every time we hear you do this show. So we use lovity as our word, our trademark word here on the show. And everybody that's a viewer is a lovity, and we welcome everybody. First, of course, we toast you and you and you. We have an international audience of great viewers from all around the world. So we toast all of you. Just a little Trader Joe's pink lemonade. I know it looks really fancy schmancy in this glass, doesn't it? It looks like an expensive martini or something. No, it's Sunday and it's just some nice pink lemonade. Let's say a quick hello to some of our viewers, and then we are going to welcome our extraordinary guest here on the show. It's truly an honor and a blessing and a joy to have Melissa Manchester join us here on the show. From the Netherlands, Willie is here. Hello, 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 Lovities. And enjoy our friend Jim Masters. Thank you very much, Willie, watching there in Holland. Mary Bishop in Florida. Hello, Jim and all the Lovities. Going to be another awesome show. Absolutely. Llewellyn is here from the Palm Springs area in California. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Bernadette Vidal. Hello, Jim and every Lovity. And I already told Melissa that you guys call yourselves the Lovities, and that she's going to be warmly welcomed as a Lovity. She's all in. She says, I love that. So she's happy to hear that. Hi, Mary and Willie, and hi, Llewellyn. Everybody's saying hello to each other. That is Bernadette. Good to see you as well. Gregory is here. Welcome, Gregory, watching on our YouTube channel. Christine Clifton from North Carolina. Happy Sunday, Jim and Lovity friends. We welcome Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter Melissa Manchester to the show tonight. Another terrific conversation. Music ahead. Lovity Hall. You better believe it. Elizabeth is here. Can't wait to see Melissa. She's an amazing lady, isn't she? I second that emotion. Absolutely, Elizabeth. You got it right there. And Jane is here. Melissa Manchester. Absolutely. Dream Vacations, Quinn Panzer Travel. Those are my friends, Frank and yes, good to see you, Frank and Karen. Yes. Hi from Milford, Connecticut. Very, very nice. We love that. Karen Quinn Panzer and Frank Panzer. Bernadette Vidal says, I'm generally excited growing up listening to Melissa Manchester. She is a favorite. Absolutely. Jill Jason. Hi, Jim. Hi, Melissa. Lovely friends. Cheers to another great evening. XOXO. Jill. Good to see you, Jill. Good evening, Jim and our lovely family from rainy Cleveland, Ohio. Dante CD is here watching from San Diego. Welcome. Diana is here. Hello, everyone. Very excited. Jim, Juanita from South Africa is here. She's one of our regular Lovity viewers. Hi, Jim and all the Lovities. Lovely Lovities. I love that. Dwight Simmons is here. Hello, Jim. Good to see you, Dwight. I think the last time you were with us, we had our great friend, actor Glenn Scarpelli on the show, which was an awesome conversation. He was live from his home in Sedona, which is beautiful. Kathleen Walker, good friend in New York City. Hi, Jim. Hi, everyone. Excited to see Melissa. And Danilo, San Diego. Hi, all Lovities. Let us join at Lovity Hall and welcome Melissa. Hello, Mr. Lovity. Good to see you as well. Love all of this. This is so great. Elizabeth says, I can't wait. It's going to be such a great interview. Congratulations, Melissa Manchester here. Absolutely. Let me die a little bit to hear Midnight Blue. Oh, that's Frank saying that. Absolutely. Well, of course, everything that she sings is extraordinary. Looking forward to your interview. Thank you, Lynn, watching on YouTube. Sherry Schoenline. Hello, Lovely. So happy to be here with all of you tonight. Elizabeth is here. Melissa is awesome. She's always on the side of good. Yes, we were just talking about that actually moments ago. Marilyn Hammond in Wichita, Kansas, USA. Hi, Jim and all Lovities. Absolutely. And don't forget, you are also Mr. Lovity. Thank you very much. I was telling that to Melissa. Ralph Lampkin Jr. in Indiana. And here we are, going to be a fabulous show. Absolutely. And Juanita is here again in South Africa saying hi. I love the fact that you all greet each other too. Hi from Brooklyn. I adore Melissa, Adrienne. Michael Colby, happy Thanksgiving week, everyone. Yes, Merlin in Canada. Hi, Jim and all Lovities. You got it. Renee is here from Iowa. Nice to see you, Renee. And Marianne Lopertino is here. Love Melissa. Dwight, you better believe it. Good stuff, good stuff. And all these comments are coming in left and right. Keep the comments coming. We love it. But let's take a moment to welcome our very special guest. Again, we are very honored to have her here on the show, and she's coming live and direct from her beautiful home. I love that. I was telling her I love the background where she is, and she'll tell us about that. Don't you just love that shot? There's a million photos, but there's something really special about this particular one that just grabbed me. She was born in New York in the borough of Bronx to a musical family, actually. Her father was a bassoonist for the New York Metropolitan Opera, and her mother was one of the first women to design and found her own clothing firm, Ruth Manchester Limited. She also hails from a Jewish background and started a singing career at an early age, too. She learned the piano and harpsichord at the Manhattan School of Music, and she began singing commercial jingles at age 15. That's right, while attending Manhattan's High School of Performing Arts. She studied songwriting at New York University with the one and only Paul Simon. We'll talk about that, too. And she played the Manhattan club scene, where she was discovered by none other than Barry Manilow, who introduced her then to Bette Midler. In 1971, she became a member of the Harlettes, the backup singers for Bette. And then she made a brief speaking appearance as Yoko Ono in the 1972 album National Lampoon Radio Dinner on the track entitled Magical Misery Tour, and as the singer as well. Her debut album, Home to Myself, was released in 1973. And Melissa co-wrote many of its songs with the wonderful Carole Bayer Sager. 2 years later, Melissa's album, Melissa, produced her first top 10 hit, the one that Frank was talking about, Midnight Blue, which enjoyed 17 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. The song's peak position was number 6 for the week of August 1975. In 1974, she performed the songs Oh Heaven and Home to Myself on the pilot episode of Ms. Magazine's television show, Woman Alive, as well. I mean, it goes on and on and on in terms of the lives that she's touched and the career that she has had. I want to tell you as well that in 1980, and this is pretty extraordinary, she became the first recording artist in the history of the Academy Awards to have 2 nominated movie themes in a single year. Of course, the glorious song, and whenever you hear it, it really makes you melt, Through the Eyes of Love, from Ice Castles, the wonderful movie Ice Castles, and also I'll Never Say Goodbye from The Promise. And to perform them both on the Oscar telecast was extraordinary. Melissa starred in the national tours of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Music of the Night and Song and Dance, created the role of Maddy, the title character's mother, on the NBC hit TV series Blossom, remember? With Joey Lawrence, absolutely. Nominated for a Grammy in 1980 for Don't Cry Out Loud. And she won the Grammy Award for Best Female Vocalist in '82, singing You Should Hear She Talks About You. Remember that one? You still hear that? And I love that song. Melissa also has comprised music for the animated features, The Great Mouse Detective and Lady and the Tramp 2, the sequel to the Disney classic. In addition, she to composing the scores of the theatrical musicals, I Sent a Letter to My Love and Sweet Potato Queens. Melissa also co-wrote the radio mainstays Midnight Blue, Come In From the Rain, and Whenever I Call You Friend. Melissa celebrated her 45-year career with the release of her 21st album, The Fellas, which is a tribute to the iconic male singers who set the platinum standard for the music of the Great American Songbook. Her new album, Review, came out in 2020, features previously unreleased songs as well as fresh takes on Melissa's enduring classic hits. She's amazing. She's extraordinary. She truly is a national treasure, and it is my pleasure to welcome the one and only Melissa Manchester to our show. Welcome.
Thank you for doing such wonderful research. I really appreciate that.
Did my homework, but knew
you sure did.
I knew so much of that, other than the fact that your father was a bassoonist and your mother had the clothing. Tell us about that growing up, what it was like for you growing up in the city, in the wonderful city of New York, and the cultural influences and the musical influences that you had early on, Melissa. And welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And hello to your world of viewers. How wonderful. The Lovities.
The Lovities.
It's just beautiful. I'm honored to be considered one. I really was born into the right family in the right place. I was a daydreaming kid. My father would practice his bassoon in the house. And I never knew that my mother had a job because she was always home at 3 o'clock when we got home from school, when my sister and I got home from school. And so we had a sort of festive version of normal. And we grew up in the Bronx until I was about 10. And then we moved to the Upper West Side. And the place was just so energetic and alive. And by the time I became a teenager, and as you mentioned, I became a jingle singer when I was 15, because my late brother-in-law was a composer and he was a jingle writer. And so at the age of 15, I started to make a living.
Not bad.
And yes. And that's where I met Barry Manilow and Patty Austin and Nikki Ashford and Valerie Simpson. We were all jingle singers. And then Barry had been, was the new musical director for Bet. And he brought her to see me one evening when she was not playing at a club called the Continental Baths, which was near a club that I always performed at called The Focus. And she had just been on the Johnny Carson show. And I did my set, and then I went over to them and said hello and congratulated Bet on her. She was still in the ascendancy, you know.
Yeah.
And it was really just fantastic to see one of our pack just being spectacular.
Yeah.
And I asked her what she was doing, what she's going to be doing next, and she was going to be playing at Carnegie Hall. And I asked her if she was going to have any background singers, because that's what I did. And she said, I don't know, would you like to sing in back of me? And I said, well, actually, I'd like to sing instead of you. But in the meantime, and that's how I became the founding member of the Harlettes. Barry and I put together Gail Cantor and Merle Miller and myself, and I toured with her for about 6 months and learned from her. But the environment of Manhattan, I mean, down the street from where I lived was the first location of the Children's Television Network where Sesame Street started. So when I was 17, I walked down there from my apartment and banged on the door. There was not security like there today. And the old stage manager said, what would you like to do? I said, well, anything. Can anybody use a gopher? So they sent me to the editing room at the ripe old age of 17. And the discussion in the editing room, where I was mainly a gopher, but I was I was watching this unfold, and the main discussion in the editing room of Sesame Street was what would happen to the integrity of the show if they came out with a line of toys.
Ah, yeah. Right.
And but I parked cars for theater companies. I was an usherette at the Vivian Beaumont Theater at Lincoln Center. I became a staff writer when I was 17 at Chapel Music. I was just a busy kid. And so New York, and my parents in particular, it was just a really good design, because it was a perfect fit. They encouraged me to pursue my dreams, as well as my sisters, and it was just a great childhood, and Manhattan was just buzzing in those days.
That's fantastic. So you had the love and the support and the guidance of those around you, and that truly makes a difference when you have that, right? Especially when you're entering something uncharted like this, that is,
it does. I think it's a different path when you are fighting against the way you were raised, by people who don't understand you or fret for you or disown you or anything hard like that. I mean, I came from a family of black sheep. If I would have gone into insurance, that would have been unusual. But, we were a family of artists. And so what I did was what I saw around my house.
So when you look at all of this, what would you say would be sort of like a early first break? Was it when Barry Manilow came into your life?
Well, I mean, yes, sure, because he was extraordinary, working with an extraordinary woman. But I think one of the early breaks, because I had been trying to get a record deal for about 7 years.
Yeah.
I would use the money I'd earned from jingle writing and staff writing to make demos, and I would send them to all of the record companies and get summarily rejected over and over and over and over. And I would weep in the phone booth when I was told that I was yet again rejected. Once I was rejected from a California-based record company because they were just about to sign me. This is, context being everything. This was the early 70s, late 60s. They thought I was a black girl. On my demo, they thought I was a black girl. And when they found out that I was white, they already had their quota of white girls, so I was rejected. Wow. And then about 7 years into it, I met Hank Medris and Dave Apple, who agreed to become my producers. And they introduced me to wonderful Larry Utall, who was the president of Bell Records. And I went in there. I played on an upright piano facing the wall while all of the suits were over there listening
right.
to song after song after song after song. And I remember I was really tired that day, really, really tired. And when it was over, I sang about, 8 or 9 songs. And when it was over, Mr. Utall was at the door as I was leaving, and he said, "Thank you very much." He said, "By the way, how important is this to you?" And I looked him right in the face and I said, "I'm going to do this with you or without you. Have a nice day." And the next thing I knew, I got a record deal. and then Bell Records was absorbed 2 or 3 years later into Arista Records. And then Clive Davis came on board as president.
That's real moxie, real good spunk,
Yes. Yeah. Well, the thing is that every time I would be turned, I just had such a hunger to be in the neighborhood of creativity. That's why all of the jobs that I took, parking cars for a theater company or being an usherette, I just wanted to be around creative people to see how they did it, because there was something that sparkled about that energy. And I could see how hard the work was, but nonetheless, people were working hard at something they loved. And that was so attractive to me. And I'd seen that in my parents as well.
And your parents as well. Were
Sure.
did you already have your voice, or were you finding your voice in terms of the material that was calling your name, the genre of music, the stuff that you wanted to do and you wanted to pursue, or was it really, it could have been anything?
Well, I mean, that's interesting. At the time, radio was still disc jockey driven as opposed
Right.
to national programming driven. And so radio was still the platform for such fantastic new songwriters. They were reshaping the American popular song, like the Beatles or Joni Mitchell or James Taylor or Carole King or Laura Nyro, who happened to be my muse because she was also an Upper West Side girl. And Stevie Wonder and the Motown sound and the Philadelphia sound. And so music was exploding. It was still very melodic, and the lyrical ideas were still very long, but the just the heart and the soul was really exploding and giving us a sense, a bridge between what was Moon, June, Spoon, between the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and what was to come. And so I just really wanted to be a part of it. It was just thrilling.
Absolutely. And so take us through the progression of some of the cool things that really started to open up and happen for you as people started to recognize your talent and your passion and your thirst for what you really wanted to do and share with the world.
Well, it was interesting, to the point I was making before. One of the things that was really different, because the music that I had grown up with, which was the great singers of the American Songbook, Ella Fitzgerald, Judy Garland, Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Nat Cole. Those folks mostly were spectacular singers, stylists, who had songs written for them.
Right.
Or all those top tier performers were all recording the same songs because they were just standards. They were just magnificent compositions. By the time I came around, I was sort of that second wave of singer-songwriters. That was new. The first wave was sort of what I consider in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, folk, protest writing, that kind of stuff. But to actually be part of this pop singer-songwriter wave was really interesting and new, because songs were being infused with interesting, unexpected elements. I mean, people were changing language. The Beatles were writing "Obla di Obla da," and Laura Nyro was writing "Can You Surrey, Can You Picnic?" And I thought, I don't care what these things mean. I know what they mean. You know what I mean? And that was really thrilling to play with language as a writer. It was just wild. And so it was fantastic to be around what was happening on the radio, and Stevie Wonder was playing with all these sounds and so romantic and unbridled sentimentality, and yet with a purpose. It was just fantastic. So when I started to get some traction, as you well know, you're invited to some swell events,
Yeah.
singing on the Academy Awards or singing on the We Are the World, the benefit, the worldwide benefit for Africa. And it was really thrilling. And the thing is that in the trajectory of a career, you have to keep changing the narrative. You have to keep designing the next chapter of your life. And for instance, The Fellas, which I released a couple of years ago as my 21st album, it's really the completion of an idea. The first part was called Tribute, which was an album I made in 1989, which was my tribute to several of those great women singers, Ella and Judy and Edith Piaf and Rosie Clooney. And The Fellas was the completion of my tribute to the men. So it's just lovely.
When Early on, did you know that, did you have a preference for songwriting versus the actual singing, being the performer, or were both pretty much equal for you?
Well, the thing about a song, it ends up being a monologue. I mean, it's undeniable that you have a tenderness for songs that you wrote because you were in the room and you remember the conversations that the songs came out of, particularly with the songs that I wrote with Carole Sager, because I didn't realize at the time that I was the first artist that she had written with and for. She was a brill building writer, and so she just went in to write and write hits. But for me, I wanted to know how she thought so that I could start hearing the music. And it was very interesting. And we were songwriting partners for 5 years. But on the other hand, through Carole, I met the great Marvin Hamlish,
Mhm.
and sang their beautiful song "Through the Eyes of Love." And but people say, "Did you know it would have such a life?" Well, no, it was an afternoon, and they called and they said, "Would you like to sing this song?"
Really?
So, yeah, it was for a lovely movie, and it was beautiful. I brought in my band, and it's touching, the life that it has had. I mean, that's the unexpected thing about songwriting and being an artist is you don't know what will touch people. And then when it does, and if it does, it comes back in such beautifully unexpected ways.
Is that almost better to have it happen that way, Melissa, than to try to almost perfect something that you hope will touch people, almost as if, not that you're forcing it, but you're so bent on this has to make impact. This is the one. This is the one that's going to knock it out of the park. And instead, you have a situation like that with such an extraordinary song like "Through the Eyes of Love" that people have loved for a long time now, and it really moves them. But it was something where you gave it your all, and you just went in there, did your thing, didn't overthink it, and then look what happened. So that's almost as if it's even a more rewarding situation because you didn't fret and worry and pace. You went, you did what you did with your raw, fabulous talent, and then it blew up from there, as opposed to trying to come in and create something and force it to be, it's got to be the one, got to be perfect.
You hope everyone is the one, but the truth is, context being everything, is I had a big record company behind me, so that was a big engine. It's a big bank and it's a big engine. And so they have the press component and they have the distribution component and all of that. And I worked my tail off touring the nation, not just performing, but doing radio tours, and to support the local distribution fellows, usually around the nation. I mean, I was just mostly exhausted.
Yeah.
Learned how to drink tequila.
Yeah.
and said hello and pressed the flesh with radio, primary radio stations, secondary radio stations, and college stations from coast to coast, back and forth, over and over again. And it was it was just unbelievable because I really didn't. I had a dream and I had a vision. I just had no idea how it actually worked, and it was wild.
Mm.
And now it's different, and now it's a different world.
Yeah.
And now when I teach, my students understand how it works now, and they have taught me, which is really interesting.
You've had so many other experiences too, as I mentioned. You also performed on the Midnight Special,
Yes.
and you performed with Richie Havens and Frankie Valli. You also contributed to the 1977 NBC special documentary "How the Beatles Changed the World," collaborated with Kenny Loggins as well, and to sort of come up with that hit duet with Stevie Nicks, "When I Call You Friend." You also guest starred on the CBS daytime soap opera "Search for Tomorrow." Tell us about, what was it like doing that?
I was such a nut. I was just happy to be invited because I was living so much inside my head because I was always hearing music or ideas or stuff like that. So and I'd been on the road quite a bit at that point, even though I was very young. I only saw, this is going to sound terrible, but I only saw the women who cleaned my motel rooms,
Right.
turning on the soap operas. So I thought, okay, so they'll be watching it and they'll see me and that'll be nice. And I had no idea how many people watch soap operas. Forgive me. I had no idea it would have such a large afterlife, but it was a lot of fun.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, some of these things, these opportunities were opportunities that came along. And again, you were brilliant at it. And then it sort of blew up afterwards in a positive way, which is really, really extraordinary. Had being involved in acting in that way, did the acting bug bite you at all? Did you have interest in going further or deeper into acting, or was music always front and center for you, Melissa?
Well, there was one point right before I was going to make the Home to Myself album, right before Bell Records was going to take a chance on me, where I had auditioned with Chevy Chase for what would become Saturday Night Live. And I went to lunch with my then manager, and he said, you have to make a choice. It's either that or it's music. You have to make the choice. And that was hard. It was hard to have that kind of heft to have to consider. But in the end, music was what I breathed and what I grew up with and what I felt would keep me buoyant no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I chose the music. But it's interesting. I did do the national tour of Song and Dance, Andrew Lloyd Webber's. I took over for Bernadette Peters, who had the run on Broadway. And I'd never done that before. I'd never done 8 shows a week anywhere. And
did you enjoy that?
Well, it was really hard.
It's a lot of work.
The thing about Song and Dance is it's an interesting kind of hybrid of a musical. And I was act 1. There was nobody else on the stage for act 1. And then the dancers would come on for act 2. And then I would do some festive tapping at the end of act 2. And, but I did 8 shows a week. And then I traveled on my day off. And because I was a star of the show, I also had to do all of the press. And I also had a 9-month-old baby with me, and his dad and my parents with me as a tribe. And at the end of the 6 months, I thought, wow, this taught me about the reservoirs of strength I have and finding tools to keep me going when my fatigue was making me nuts. And it really helped me get a spiritual platform to walk when I was feeling wonky. Would I do it again? I would do it. I did another Andrew Lloyd Webber show called Music of the Night for a 3-month tour, but there were more people on stage, which was very nice. But would I do it again? I would do it, if I was doing something on Broadway. I've been told many times, if you're in one place, then you can create a life, and you're not just moving all the time, which was just wearying. But I'm glad I did it. I'm grateful that I did it. The people were spectacular. The dancers were incredible. The musicians were incredible. I made some lifelong friends, and you learn the stuff that you're made out of.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And what did you learn about yourself? What are some of the things that was it tenacity, resilience, compassion, empathy, a variety of different things that you explored that you rise to the surface for you, Melissa, during these times?
That's an interesting question. I think I learned compassion for myself, because up until that point, I didn't really have tools. I sort of thought I was sort of doing what I used to do in my mother's living room, which was sing. And when company would show up, I would sing. But when you're working that hard and it is really relentless, and I was not a person to say, I don't feel like doing it, understudy, do it today. I showed up, unless I got sick, and I got sick once. I showed up for those 8 shows a week, every week in a new city, and did all the press. And I learned through reading, through reading about Ernest Holmes, who created in the 1930s, I believe, out here in California, a philosophy called the science of mind. It's a culmination of all great religious traditions and great poetic vehicles, Thoreau and all that. And I learned that how to think differently about spirit, and to think differently about my ego, and to have more compassion for my ego, and to tell it to, shh, not needed now. Not needed. Think bigger. You're fine. Everything's fine. And, you know, and then at the end of that 6 months of really grueling work, I ended up pregnant with my beautiful daughter. So now I have 2 kids. And a life experience I could have, I didn't realize I signed up for, but I guess I did. That's great.
And didn't she just receive an MBA recently?
She did. Thank you for noticing that. Yes, Hannah D. Reamer has an MBA. She's the recipient of an MBA in IT management. She's the house nerd.
Yeah.
And she's fantastic. And my son, Nathan, is a literary agent, and his beautiful fiance is a costume designer. So we're all a jolly bunch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you early on, you've had this grounding, this understanding. You've always had this place within yourself that you can call upon when times got dicey, rough, confusing, frustrating,
Yes.
Uncharted. And that's a beautiful thing to have, because sometimes people go into all of these different, very demanding fields, these industries that we're in, where they don't necessarily have that, where they're more about, we've had these conversations on this show, where they're chasing more of the fame, just looking for the fame.
Right.
And there isn't that foundation or those inspirational sources underneath.
Right.
And that can lead you into directions of, not being happy, not being satisfied, not being fulfilled within, right?
Well, it's that, and you're using outside sources to fulfill you. I mean, when I think about how hard in terms of fully invested, when you are performing, you are fully invested. It is not just this 1-inch muscle that's being used.
Right.
It is your heart and your spirit and your soul and your body. It's very physical work, and I leave nothing left. I mean, I perform hard and I perform completely committed because I am so grateful for this journey, and I love what I do so much. And these songs have grown with me, and I have invested my experiences of life into them. So I take nothing for granted. And so the thought of, somebody going on stage drunk or high or shooting up to do this, it just really, you mean this is not hard enough as it is? You want more time and space? No, let's talk. I'll walk you through this. But no, that was never for me. Although I used to have nutty rituals to get on stage. When I was first starting, around the time that I met Bet, when she was performing on the same street that I was performing, she was performing, as I said, in the Continental Bath, and I was performing up the street at a place called the Focus. I had no tools. I was just going to perform, but I knew that I needed to sort of roll onto the stage. I knew that I had to be coming out of some kind of energy, something, and at that point, I didn't know about getting on a treadmill for 30 minutes. I didn't know about exercising. I didn't know about, drinking a lot of water. I didn't know about anything. So my version of a ritual was to turn on, this is so weird, was to turn on the end of Act 2 from the American opera called Vanessa by Samuel Barber. There's this spectacular, triumphant duet called Love Has a Bitter Core. And the harmonics are so unbelievable that I would turn it up to like 11 on a 10 volume. And I would just scream it, and I would just listen to it and it would just make me crazy. And then I'd go out on stage. I thought, what? How is this a good idea? Okay. It has taken me decades to learn about, well, why don't you try going on a treadmill and drink a lot of water and breathe and vocalize, that stuff. But that's part of the journey. I had nobody to walk me through this. I learned as I went along. And when I look back at it, it was pretty nuts, but it made me laugh because that was my younger self. Yeah.
That's it. A little bit different than la 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 la.
Right. I learned the la 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 later.
After.
I really did. Yeah, exactly. I actually learned the la 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 part when I was playing in Vegas. In those days, people were still smoking in the showroom.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first pop of my generation artists that played in Vegas at the Riviera. And the smoke was just, it was terrifying. It was really terrifying because the high rollers with their big fat cigars were seated right at the front. And at one point I opened my mouth and nothing came out. And I thought, scared, really scared. Yeah. And they actually had to drop the curtain. And I went to a clinic and I flew back to LA and I went to the UCLA speech pathology department, and the surgeon pulled out my tongue. He said, okay, go go ah. He said, you're fine, but you must learn how to do this. So at that, well into my career, I learned how to do this. And now I'm much better off. Wendy McKenzie has been my vocal coach for decades and decades.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Over the years, who are some of the folks? You mentioned some really wonderful names, when you were a kid, and music and performers that inspired you. Over the years, who are some of the others that have inspired you along the way too, Melissa?
Well, Ella Fitzgerald was the one. I mean, when I heard her when I was 5 years old, and I certainly have told this before, but she sang an album, all Gershwin, just she and Ellis Larkins playing piano. And I didn't know what she was singing about, but she became my light. The tone of her voice, that plaintive, that masterful, that present and whole sound was the guide. And when I finally met her, I did a Memorex commercial with her, and she was as dear as could be. And I had done a tribute. I was part of an all-star tribute for her at Lincoln Center years and years ago. And it was just incredible. It was everybody from Bobby McFerrin to Itzhak Perlman. And at the end, they were giving her the key to the city. And at the end, the late Joe Williams brought her out on stage in front of all of us. And the place went nuts. And as she was leaving the stage, she turned to me and she said, "Did I do okay?" And I thought, well, this is, But Ella was it for me. Judy Garland was it for me. I did not meet her. I know Liza, Rosie Clooney, whom I had the delight of knowing and singing with and for, and she sang some of my songs. It's the people you meet along the way. The people who interpret your songs, the people who inspire you. Sometimes one of the things that was so interesting for me is because a song is a world that you created, if you wrote it, of course. And it's a world that didn't exist before you wrote it. And I was, the first time my song that I'd written with Carole Sager, Home to Myself, was used in the Ms. Magazine special. It was so astounding. There was this woman by the name of Krista Lee Sutton, she was trying to organize a union somewhere in Alabama or North Carolina, I don't remember, but she was the prototype for the film Norma Ray. And in the Ms. Magazine special, there was this scene of hers, which was later in the movie, where she was released from prison. She was arrested for picketing, something against the company that had the factories. And she came home and she woke her 3 kids up. They were little and they were sleepy. And she took out a box and explained to her kids that she would be known as a jailbird by their friends. And she wanted to tell them who their dad was in case kids bullied them or whatever. And under that scene that actually happened about Krista Lee Sutton, Ms. Magazine used Carole and my song Home to Myself to underscore it. And I'd never had that experience of having a song of mine create a cushion, a kind of great chorus for something. The effect was so unexpected. And so again, it just, it gives you pause to see how the world that you thought you were creating for yourself, once it's in the world, you just don't know what it's going to do for the listeners. It's just miraculous, really.
Isn't it amazing when that happens? And I'm sure over the years, the accolades have been extraordinary from the industry, from the peers, but also when you have somebody that just comes up to you and says, that material, that song, the way you interpreted this, or just the way you presented it has touched my life in such a deep, moving way. Yeah. It must sometimes, even though you might have heard it 1,000 times, every time probably still, takes your breath away a little bit, huh?
It does. It's so humbling. In the older days, people would write letters and all that, but when somebody would say, your song helped me through my tour in Vietnam, your song helped me to decide not to commit suicide, your song serenaded my partner and I when we decided to make a baby, your song serenaded us as we walked down the wedding aisle. I mean, and now that it's 40 years later and those songs have grown, yeah, and been taken to heart, it's breathtaking, really. It's just humbling, really.
What song would you say? I mean, there's so many, but is there a particular song that is the one that people comment about the most when they speak of Melissa Manchester to you?
Oh well, they talk about Through the Eyes of Love or Midnight Blue or Don't Cry Out Loud. And, in working on this project, Review, somebody asked me when it's coming out. Well, the thing that's interesting about Review, it's interesting to me anyway, is that the way we are rolling this out, because we're not going anywhere, is per month I am releasing a video and the single. So we started in September with Just You and I, which pays tribute to many of the frontline workers, the invisible who became the essential. And what was touching for me is that song was written such a long time ago, but suddenly it had a new inner meaning and it grew into this moment. And then last month, I released Midnight Blue and that video. And we're just about, I thought we had one ready. It wasn't quite right, so I'm tweaking it just a little bit because who's in a rush, right? So that will be hopefully released shortly. But that's how we're doing it. And at the end of that, and then there will be some bonus tracks, some songs that I've never released before. And then, and then you're working on the next project.
That's right. Absolutely. How have you been? I know we've been talking about this quite often on this show and dealing with this particular year and all the incredible things you've been experiencing, individually, collectively, globally. Any one of the things that we've experienced, whether it's the pandemic, the economic situation, the civil unrest, the ongoing election. Any one of those would be monumental enough, but to have everything all at the same time, it's really given us reason to pause. And you and I were talking before we went live on the air about how I'm hoping we sort of come out of this kinder, friendlier, more loving, more empathetic, more collaborative. I tend to be somebody who's not extreme here or extreme there. I tend to be a unifier. I like to bring people to the table, bring people together. And we might not always get everything we want, but at least we'll come together and we'll get some of the things we want, but we'll be together. So I'm hoping that, out of all of this pause that we've been going through, we're coming together in a more empathetic, kinder, collaborative way where we actually listen to one another and care about what the other person has to say. How about you? How have you been dealing with everything all the range of emotions that we've been dealing with this year?
Well, yes. Well, it's interesting because when 2020 started, I had posted, envision the world you want. Who knew what was ahead of us?
Right.
And now to have 2020 vision means an entirely different thing. Personally, the fact that my career, like most people's, was brought to an abrupt halt. I had to deal with real grief, and I had to recognize what it was. I had to deal with anxiety of what comes next and how long this lasts. And then, onion skin peel by onion skin peel, I started to breathe into this moment and understood the unexpected value of what was happening. That we had the opportunity, well, I know your listeners are from all over the world. So the world, let's say, had the opportunity to be shut down and take a look and not be distracted and not kick any social issue down the road for the next generation to take care of. In the United States, we had to really, because we weren't going anywhere, we had to really be still and look and see and absorb the unfinished business of the American promise, and to finally see without equivocation who's been left out, and who's partially okay and who's never been okay, and where the unfinished work is and how hard that's going to be, and who's denying the unfinished stuff. And I think that is a gift. I think all of those levels of consciousness and non is a gift to finally have nowhere else to go but to look at it. I just really think that the opportunity is remarkable to heighten our awareness, to be proactive, to see what conversations, what actions we can take, how love in action can show up. I think it's a remarkable time. I think it is.
Yeah. Well, born out of that also is this phenomenal project, Melissa, Awake. Tell us about this. It sounds really exciting.
Well, Awake was a video that I had released at the beginning of this. I discovered the writing of Rabindranath Tagore when I was about 17. He was a Nobel laureate of India. He was known as the Shakespeare of India. His writing struck me so when I was a young girl. The writing was rapturous. He wrote poetry and essays and novels and plays and poetry, but it was his brief poetic essays, I guess you call them, that always sang to me. I could always feel the music. I just couldn't distill it. Couldn't. Yeah. And I would break it down. I had the same book, year after year, once or twice a year, I'd open it up. I go, yep, there it is again. And I still couldn't sing to you what I was hearing. I was just getting these waves and waves and waves. And a couple of years ago, I woke up. It was the summertime. I made my pot of coffee. I went to the piano. There was the book. I thought, okay, so I'll open it up, and I heard it. I started to hear it. And I could barely breathe because I had to be still, because once you hear something, you must get it down somehow or it evaporates as you hear it.
Right.
And so I barely moved, and I started to sing so I could create a groove in my head.
Right.
And then I would write it down. I would write it down. And because I was writing soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and the piano parts, this was kind of new for me. I didn't write all of those things. Usually I just would make up that stuff in the studio. But here I was. And I did. And it took me about a month to write it out. And as it turned out, this thing that was not written about the United States and written a very long time ago about another country entirely, it was about our nation. It was about the dream, the promise of our nation. It was the promise of those who have struggled and marched and fought and founded their nation and been a suffragette and worked in civil rights and love our children as the ultimate investment in our future. So that's what I created, and it's called Awake.
And we actually have it here. So yeah. And I can't wait to show it. I was looking at it earlier today. You're going to love this, folks. Enjoy this. And then the wonderful, incomparable Melissa Manchester and I will be back in just a moment. This is Awake.
Where the clear
Really beautiful.
So much. Thank you. Peter
God.
Hume orchestrated that, and a bunch of really talented friends sang on that with me.
What was that like, putting that
Oh,
together? The inspiration
it was
must have
really
been.
thrilling.
Yeah.
It was really thrilling. You know, I mean, it was, again, that was at the beginning of our pandemic, and so suddenly things that you sort of were floating in the air suddenly were underscored with urgency
Yes.
and opportunity. And so it was fantastic to we actually had a world premiere of it with the Temecula Symphony and Choir last year, which was really thrilling. But to be able to commit it and share it to viewers was really lovely.
Very, very nice. We've got some beautiful comments coming in here. Just wanted to show you from the
Oh,
Lovity viewers around the world. Love says, all your songs are great, Melissa. So many wonderful memories.
yay.
Mary says, you're such a down-to-earth person, very refreshing,
Very.
which we love. Diana says, Melissa, as you were speaking, Midnight Blue, the Encore collection is playing in my mind on an endless loop.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Christine Clifton says, this is a wonderful conversation with so many interesting stories. I like your thinking, Melissa.
Thank you.
Elizabeth says, I love that you're so genuine and always have an attitude of gratitude, which is so true and so important. And then they're talking, of course, about what we just witnessed, and extraordinary from Lynn, hearts from Gregory. Dante in San Diego says, you are a remarkable woman.
Oh, thank you, Dante. That's very kind of you.
Carla, who's one of our regular Lovity viewers in South America and Brazil, says, flawless. Absolutely loves it. Bernadette, how poignant and so beautifully written, both score, lyrics, lovely voices.
Thank you.
Wow, just wow, so beautiful. Wow, so beautiful. Juanita in South Africa, one of our regular viewers, says, wow, amazing.
Yeah, fantastic.
Fabulous video. Yeah. Wow. From Kathleen in New York City, the old stomping grounds.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautifully presented, deep and sensational.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Now, I love that. That's a great comment too, right?
Yeah.
Great group of singers, amazing singers.
They were, yeah.
Awake, really unusual song and choir as well. Really liking that. It's Christopher in Ohio. Really beautiful. Congratulations. Love your music.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you very much.
And thumbs up and wonderful. Well, you know, it ties in so beautifully to what we were talking about earlier, that you do just have this uncanny knack to pick things that really stand the test of time, cut through everything, and have staying power and a deeper impact. I mean, so much of the material you've had an opportunity to be a part of, whether you even could have envisioned intuitively that it was going to be so spectacularly received by the world, has had that opportunity because I think of what you put into it, the time, the not just the talent, but it's the love and the enthusiasm, the passion, the inspiration. Like you said, you're all in on it. When there's something coming your way, people know that Melissa's going to give 110% to it.
I am all in. You know, well, thank you very much. It ain't me. It's the hunger. The hunger just does not go away. And I know that if I ever decided to leave, there would be 43 other singers who take my place, no problem. But be that as it may, the hunger is such a precious spiritual yearning, soul yearning, that I let that be. Sometimes I am glib about it, and I say that my mind is like a pet, and I let it just sniff around for an idea, knowing that it will find one. And then when it does, it's like a dog on a bone. It just insists on being expressed. That's my experience of it anyway. So
how do you define what your hunger is?
Well, oh my gosh, that's a good question. The thing is that whether I am writing or whether I am performing, there's something about the elevated sense of presence. I'm the vehicle. I'm the vehicle, and I know myself, and sometimes I have to talk to my inner child and say, okay, we're gonna just sit, and we're gonna keep sitting. And when you feel like you're nudgy and you want to get up and stop for the day, we're gonna sit a little bit more to get the work done, to explore the idea a little bit more, because I can. Inspiration, will come like a spurt and then dry up and spurt. I have collaborators who always have that gush going, and they're extraordinary to work with. I'm just different, and so I have to be compassionate, like you were talking about earlier. I have to be gentle with myself and talk myself to stay sitting, or if not sitting, walking around with the intention of listening to what the next piece of music, the next lyric will be. So it's, that's what I love about getting older. You get to know yourself on a deeper level, and you're not jerked and pulled by, youthful impulses. You've already
Right.
been through the youthful impulse. You can smell it a mile away, and you see it in other people. And so I appreciate and I'm amused by myself, because
Yeah.
that inner nudgy child, oh, it's taking too long. It's really too hard. Yeah. Okay. Just, all right, let's breathe and sit 5 minutes longer.
Right.
It's funny.
It's the
really
positive self-talk that really
is.
calms you down and keeps you focused. And
Yes.
would you say that you are a perfectionist about your work?
I don't know about that. I simply have more tools. And so, when you're first writing, it's such an extraordinary feeling, because it's as if you've discovered that you instantly know another language. And so you just want to write and gush and write and gush, because everything is a song. But as you're doing it over the years, your editing skills, your sense of what is this topic, what is this monologue, who is the narrator of the story, it's much more acute. And so you can, as I say, there are two kinds of writing that I experience. I write either from the eyebrows up or from the heart down. And accessing from the heart down is much harder, because that's where your authentic language is.
Right.
But that's what's more satisfying to me. And that's what I learned from Paul Simon. And that's what I teach my students. And so getting still enough to get all of the chatter to calm down until you can actually start to see the room that you're seeing, that you're writing about, or the person walking down the street, or whatever the subject matter is. It's I just have more refined tools. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which again is something that, like you say, it's time. It's living of life. It's the experiences of life that get you to realize that. And then it sort of just naturally pours out, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. You don't have to, you're not chasing, and it's just coming out from the wisdom that's been acquired. And it's an authenticity too, isn't it?
Well, yes, you brought up an interesting point. The world at this point is filled with smart people, informed people, but I would pay big money for a wise person any day.
Right.
They're just not the same. They are just not the same.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Christopher O'Hara says, wow, this interview is a college course. They're learning so much.
That's so sweet.
Dwight loves the albums from 82 to 85. Those are some
that's
of his favorites. And Melissa, you are amazing, really
that's
beautiful, timeless, quieting the noise and hearing your soul, which is really, really true. Absolutely. Glorious piece, talking about awake as well. Some of these people that you've had an opportunity to collaborate with too and work with are, extraordinary. Of their own.
Extraordinary. When I I have had the opportunity. Well, there's
That
there's Dionne
beyond.
Warwick. She has been a hero of mine since I was a teenage girl. Love her, and I was so blessed that she sang on my "You Gotta Love the Life" album, and she sang on a song. It was Hal David's last lyric that I set to music, and of course, she built her career on the songs of Hal David and Burt Bacharach. So. Yeah, and Bob Hope. And I've had the opportunity to set music to Bernie Taupin's extraordinary lyrics. And of course, writing with Kenny Loggins was really pretty special.
A couple of people even asked about when you were on Blossom on NBC.
Oh, yeah, they're my
What was
kids.
that like? Yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic. You know, I auditioned for Ted Wass, who played the dad. And Mayim Bialik was just extraordinary. I mean, she was about 14 years old then, and she could have directed and produced the entire series. She was the smartest young person I'd ever met. And she was raised really well. And the kids were all great. It was a very happy set. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful experience.
Absolutely. I believe she has a new TV series that's coming out too. Well.
Well, she's been with on the Big Bang Theory forever. Yeah.
Right. Dwight remembers when you did Solid Gold with Dionne.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I did Solid Gold a couple of times. I did Midnight Special several times. It was, I mean, the whole world of variety television was so incredible. And there I am, feeling my way through something in that beautiful picture in the studio. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun. Yes, and that's where I killed myself to get myself very thin and be very edgy. And management thought that would work for me, and it was an interesting. All of these things were interesting adventures along the way. You know how painters have. They go through different periods. Picasso went through his blue period, blah, blah, blah. This is what it's been like for me. This is a beautiful picture taken by the late, brilliant George Hurrell, who captured the faces of Hollywood in the 20s and 30s and 40s. And it was fun. It was fun. And sometimes it wasn't fun, but there was always something to learn from it. And that was always my deal. That's the first album, Home to Myself.
Yeah.
My feeling was I would sign up for the adventure if I could find something to justify my time and energy. I never was a person who was just hungry for hits. I didn't think that way. And that's Don't Cry Out Loud. But if you could show me, if I could figure out where the adventure was, where the interesting turn of phrase was, then I could live with that. Because the thing is, if you're successful with a song, if a song really hits, you're singing it forever.
Right.
So you got to find that thing that will keep you engaged every time. Well, that was a mistake. Although a lot of people.
I noticed your voice lowered when you said that.
That was Helmut Newton. He's an internationally famous photographer, and really. But again, you try stuff.
It's a beautiful shot.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Steve Shapiro. Beautiful. Yeah. Randy St. Nicholas did that.
I showed this one earlier at the top. This is just something. There's something they captured something there where you look joyful and blessed, and like you're looking at something or someone that makes you feel fulfilled, happy, content. Just the way you're looking at an object. A person, you just have a look like of such great joy and satisfaction, and you're finding joy in whatever it is you're seeing or envisioning. Yeah, thank you. It really has that touch, and that's great. When you have an opportunity to really. Here's another.
Oh yeah.
That was Through the Eyes of Love.
Yes.
Here's some more.
Yes.
Now, is this, where was this one taken, Melissa?
That was taken at the premiere of the Clive Davis Soundtrack of My Life documentary.
Oh, very nice.
And yes, I was briefly in that, and it was very sweet to see him. I hadn't seen him for quite a while.
Great shot there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great shots here.
Thanks.
And I think I found another one. What is this? Let's see. Oh yeah, this one here.
Yes, that is a Bob Mackie gown. Yes,
Yeah.
I had several gowns made by Bob Mackie, the brilliant Bob Mackie. They are in storage.
Are they? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Here's another great one we have.
Oh, thanks.
Another joyful one.
Oh, that's my dad.
Is that amazing? Yeah.
That's my
Tell us
dad.
about your dad. Yeah,
Well,
the
my dad,
bassoonist.
as you mentioned, was a bassoonist, and on my early albums, I would make sure arrangers always wrote a bassoon part for him, and it was really funny because he was not used to the concept of repeat and fade, which is how most records ended in those days.
Right.
You would just play and play and play, and it would get quieter and quieter. Because in the opera, everything comes to an end.
Yeah. Right.
So he would just
Exactly.
keep looking at me like, "Do I keep playing?" But this was a PBS special actually up in San Francisco for called Over Easy, and the late
Yes.
Hugh Downs was the host. It was very dear. We were playing Coming from the Rain, so it was very sweet.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great time. Yeah. Did you have opportunities to play with your father a lot?
I did. He played on my HBO special. You can see him, and I loved bringing him into the studio. And I was thinking about this the other day. When I was writing my first musical, I Sent a Letter to My Love. I'd never done that before, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I just loved the form, and I played my dad a song from it, and he said the sweetest thing. He said, "That sounds like you," and I could feel where he was coming from, and I so appreciated the respect and regard that he was showing me as a young composer.
Yeah.
Because he could have said, "Well, it sounds like a really bad version of Gershwin," but he said, "No, that sounds like you," and it was very touching. I really, really appreciate it. Never forgot it.
No, absolutely. The wisdom of dad. Here's another. It's you and Barry.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Worked on a lot of great projects together.
Yes, we did. He is a great, great friend. And on The Fellas, he sings on the only duet on the album with me.
How has, from your perspective, again, you've been doing this for, quite some time, and you got in early singing first with jingles. How has the industry changed in ways that you think are positive and ways that maybe aren't so great in terms of all the different ways that everything is now presented and projected these days in the music industry? A lot swiftly changed in so many different ways now.
Yes. My students, actually, when I was teaching at the Thornton School at USC, I really learned about how the market was changing from my students. And they taught me about crowdfunding and being an independent artist. That was something that was sort of, I don't know, I didn't know how to focus on it because nobody ever explained it to me in the past. But my students helped me to walk into the adventure of crowdfunding. And that's how I funded my 20th album, You Gotta Love the Life, and The Fellas. And it allowed me to be the record company and the executive producer and to manifest what I was hearing unless I asked for your help, which I frequently did. But, as an artist, particularly in the early days, you're talked out of so much and talked into so much that to actually be creating work that is in your soul, that is what you are up to, is quite astounding. Now, being an independent artist is code word for you do 4 times the amount of work yourself.
Right.
But I don't do it by myself. Sue Holder and I have been working together for 36 years now, and we have learned what this new marketplace is all about, again, with the help of my students. And it's really fascinating. For them, it's the new normal. Right. It's not even new. It's just the marketplace that they're aware of. There are very few record companies anymore. there are very few publishing deals that you can make a living, that you can live on. So I just keep trying to move the narrative forward. And so I thought the review project is what I would be up to now, because besides the fact that I've learned more about my songs in terms of harmonics and stuff over the years, many of my colleagues are doing this same thing. They are re-recording their hits, because when we signed those record deals a million years ago, we had no idea of all of these new revenue streams because of social media that exist now that simply didn't, nobody even heard of the concept. And so there are a lot of us in the studio re-recording our hits so we can own the masters and license them if anybody's interested in. So, yeah.
It's a whole new world. Yeah, Spotify and all these other avenues, iTunes and all.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the teaching and mentoring young minds?
I do. I do. I mean, teaching is really interesting. I haven't taught at USC for a while, but I was there for about 4 or 5 years. And, it was so unexpected. The thing about teaching is you realize how much you know and how much you can learn from your students, and the ongoing discussion about what do you want your song to do or be? Do you want to write just because you like to write? Do you want your song to have a purpose, a larger purpose in the world? It's fascinating, and it's really never over. And every generation gets a chance to rediscover the wheel. I think that at this point, with crowdfunding and independent artistry and all that stuff, the wheel has been rediscovered, but it's not quite round the way I understood what round was.
Right.
Right.
That's a little bit right. It's got a few edges here and there. And
yeah. It gets you there. It's just a little different.
Right. Exactly. There's a phenomenal career and all the wonderful people that you've met and all the terrific things that you've had an opportunity to partake in and still do in such a beautiful way. What are some of the things, the joys and the blessings and the inspirations that you have even today that foster this continued love and passion for the craft and inspiration for wanting to continue to create in such a beautiful way that you do, Melissa?
Well, I'm so grateful that this has turned into a job with a future. I mean, honestly, the artistic path is rugged, and unsteady and insecure and sometimes unsafe and unsane. And so you have to keep moving your sails around to navigate those waters. And you have to really want it badly, because the second you say, I think I'm done, 50 people show up to take your place.
Right.
And so I had that moment once, by the way.
Did you?
Yes, I was just so frustrated and things weren't working out. And the record company that I had wanted to be with forever, I finally got to, and it was just a nightmare. And I thought to myself, God, you're giving me this enormous talent. Maybe this is not, maybe I'm looking at the wrong part of the canvas. And I said to my manager at the time, I think I can't do this anymore. And he went, okay. I said, the hell with okay. I'm doing it. I'm staying. And so
a little of that Bronx moxie coming out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and you dig in deeper, and then the great Paul Williams, the great songwriter Paul Williams, that I had the opportunity to write some songs with. He said to me, go to Nashville, try Nashville. I said, really? He said, yeah, because here in LA, they want to know what you've done lately. And in Nashville, they're just happy you showed up. I said, they're happy I showed up?
Right.
He said, yes. And I did. And it gave me a new lease. And I recorded my one and only Christmas album there. And I wrote a lot. And I showed it with my ideas, and they liked my ideas, and I liked their ideas. And it just gave you a sense of breathing deeply again and realizing, boy, I hadn't taken a deep breath in a long time. So that was lovely.
That's beautiful. Somebody had asked earlier if you could talk a little bit about what it was like early on for you to sort of be inspired by Paul Simon in the way that you were.
Sure. When I was 17, my two friends from NYU, I only went there for 1 year. My two friends, Jeff Sweet and Brett Mitchell, saw in the hallway on the bulletin board a little scrap of paper that said Paul Simon will be teaching record producing and songwriting. And nobody was sure it was the same Paul Simon from Simon and Garfunkel. What would he be doing at NYU? And he conducted all of the auditions. And he chose 10 of the most disparate representatives of humanity in terms of songwriting and put us in a room, and we would meet once a week for a couple of hours. And the assignment was to show up with a song or a verse and a chorus, and so would he. Yeah. Now, context being everything, Bridge Over Troubled Waters was #1 all over the world. And he had these 6 months that he had off, and he felt like teaching. And I learned everything from him. Maybe not everything, but a great portion of everything. And it is a lot of what I teach, which is that all of the stories have been told. Mm-hmm. And it is the way you tell your story. It is the way, which is your mark of authenticity.
Right.
And though that sounds simple is not easy. And so it was just fantastic. And the most fantastic part was that he was also bringing in song ideas that he was working on. And it was just fantastic, and he would bring in great artists. He brought in Isaac Stern right off the stage of Carnegie Hall one night, still in his tux. Wow, what are you doing here? And it was really great. And some people did their best work in the room, and some people went on to write. I guess a couple of the Roche sisters were in the class, and but it was just dazzling. It was really dazzling.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
As far as things that you still want to tackle and want to do, I'm sure there's a bevy of things that you have on that people always say bucket list, but on the Melissa list of things that you want to sink your teeth into either again or for the first time. What would be some of those things, Melissa?
Well, I'd love to write another theater piece, and I'm exploring that. And right now I'm working on a second choral piece because my mind is just attracted to the puzzle of it, I guess. And there are artists that I would love to collaborate with. I'd love to know Winston Marsalis. I'd love to know Yo-Yo Ma. I'd love to know Ken Burns. I'd love to know Pink. I found out that on the Andy Cohen show that Pink loved listening to me sing Don't Cry Out Loud when she was 5. So I would like to see if we could do a duet or something. There are so many people that, it would just be fascinating.
Yeah. Could you imagine? So if any of you are listening and watching our show, that would be fantastic. So you mentioned your kids and their wonderful pursuits. Any musical aptitude? Do they have a passion for music and singing and performing as well?
Oh, yes. My daughter was a lovely singer, and she had sung on some Disney cruises and did some club work. But the thing is that she didn't love the life. And actually, the title song of You Gotta Love the Life came out of a conversation I had with Hannah, because the talent part and the creating part is one component, but the larger life is what it shows up as and informs terms, and you got to negotiate to help it move forward day by day. And she did not love that. And boy, it's so important to know that you don't love it at the beginning, so that you don't spend a lot of time in, on that.
Right, exactly. Made the decision early. A couple people ask, and we're famous on the show for, if you could tell us the room that you're in, because there's so many beautiful photos, and it just seems like a lot of life all around you. What room are you in now?
I am in the entryway to my apartment, and when I started, I grew up with art on the walls. My mother was a painter before she became a fashion designer, and so there was always art on the walls. And when she passed away, I inherited a lot of her art besides my own collection. But when I was 17, I started to read about Gertrude Stein and Alice Toklas and those expatriates and brilliant artists that created the modern art movement. And I believe I've recreated my own version of her salon. There is, as my son says, my walls drip with art. It just makes me happy. And
have you ever dabbled in creating any yourself?
Not really. I mean, I like to sketch and draw, but I know what really good art looks like, and I don't do it. Yeah.
So have you cleaned a lot of closets during all this time, like many people?
Yeah, I have. I've given things away. I actually put up holiday lights out on my porch. I put up a celebration tree, and on the top of it, instead of having a star, I put up my pink knitted hat that said, "Nevertheless, she persisted."
I like that. I like
Yes,
that.
and I have some masks hanging from it, and I have my menorah ready to go for Hanukkah. We celebrate everything here.
Sure.
And I just need the cheer to keep me moving forward, because the news is just sort of, okay, let me know when we're moving forward.
So like I show on this show all the time, we all need to relax.
Yes. Find joy and laugh. I love finding things that make me giggle or guffaw once a day. Usually before I go to bed, I'll watch, doggy things, or whatever. It just makes me hysterical. And it's good to feel myself really give a good belly laugh per day.
Well, that's what I tell people.
Because it forces me to breathe deeply, and that's really important.
Exactly right. It releases those feel-good hormones, the endorphins, which is really important. I tell people to really get in touch with some of those constants in life. If it means going to see, growing up along the coast here and being along the coast in the Northeast, the Atlantic, the Long Island Sound, I mean, it's all right here. So being by the water, going into nature, thinking about the joys. I know we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and there are still a lot of things to be thankful for. The fact that we're here, we're healthy, family, love, to be able to do work that we're passionate about, we care about, that inspires and lifts other people. So there are a lot of constants and a lot of blessings and joys out there if we take the time to slow down, breathe, like you say, and pay heed to them, right?
Yeah, and look for the really little tiny things that bring you joy. For me, for my fans who know me, a blade of grass coming through concrete stops me in my tracks every time.
Is that amazing?
That is nature's metaphor for, oh, really?
It's like all cement. And how is that happening?
How is that possible? You see a leaf cracking through a rock and you think, a miracle. Stop and just look at this for a second.
You sound like me. I do that. Are you very visual? Are you a real observer of life?
Yes.
Do you soak it all up?
I think so.
I do. Yeah.
I think so. Yes, indeed. And again, that is something that you learn over time. When you're very young, everything's coming at you. So you don't think about, what am I seeing? It's just, wow, what a ride. But as you get older, it's, it is using all of the senses to not miss the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fernando asks, will you release your early demos?
Ah, um, well, on the collection that you showed, that is, I think, a collection of all of the records. Will I release my early demos? Gee, I don't know. I'll have to think about that, but thank you for asking.
Stay tuned, right? And Bernadette says another theater piece. Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we were supposed to have 2 productions of Sweet Potato Queens, and they were shut down. They've been postponed, but that's what happened.
Tell us about that, Sweet Potato Queens, for folks watching who don't know about that.
Yes, Sweet Potato Queens, the musical, is based on a collection of books by Jill Connor Brown, a fantastic woman, a dear friend. These books were all New York Times #1 bestsellers. The musical was book by Rupert Holmes, lyrics by Sharon Vaughn, and music by me. And it is the story, somewhat, of Jill Connor Brown and her interesting group of misfits in Jackson, Mississippi, who could not figure out what to do with their life. And Jill dreams her way into this wonderful, wonderful persona. And I learned about this in an article that I saw here in the LA Times years and years and years ago. I saw this photograph of some kind of a float in some kind of a parade, and it all seemed kind of nuts and larger than life, and a great big wig and a tiara and glasses and big boobs and a big booty, and I couldn't tell if it was a real person or a thing. But then I read the article that accompanied the photograph, and I read this tone. I heard this tone in her voice, and I could start to hear the music. And I thought, this is the next musical. And we wrote a musical. And so I love her to pieces. She's one of the best people I know. So I can't wait until this all lifts, and hopefully everybody will get an opportunity to see this very joyful, very funny show.
You also had a second single, Big Light, featuring a duet with Al Jarreau, along with that accompanying music video that was released for radio in 2015. What was it like performing with Al?
Well, Al and I were old friends. We had toured many times together. And I wrote Big Light with John Prue, who's a wonderful jazz artist. And Al was not, this was a very interesting album, You Gotta Love the Life, because all kinds of, not by my design, all kinds of brilliant artists showed up. Dionne Warwick showed up. You showed that picture. Joe Sample, it was one of his last performances, played on that song. Al Jarreau, he came in, and we recorded this album down at Citrus College, where I'm artist in residence. And this place is a community college, but it has a spectacular music department, great state-of-the-art studio. So there were recording students and performing students who, kids mostly don't see music being created on the spot, because they're working with tracks and stuff like that. So Al came in, and he started to sing, and he was doing his Al Jarreauisms, and where he becomes the instrument, his body becomes the instrument. And then at the end of it was a duet. And then at the end of it, I went in to hug him, to thank him. And I could feel that he was holding on to me, and he was crying. And I just sort of leaned into him, and he just kept saying, thank you for doing this. Keep doing this, keep doing this, keep doing this. So I was very blessed by knowing him.
That's really absolutely beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was as far as your collection or any materials, there was that fire, I think, in 2008 with Universal, where a lot of artists lost material. How did that affect you? Were you able to regain anything, or did you have collections of things elsewhere?
At first, I was told that one of my pieces was destroyed, and then on further searching, I'm good, all my stuff was safe. Thank God. Yeah.
That's a blessing, huh?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a real blessing.
Amazing. It was just amazing. And this fellow, Joe Marchese, who produced the album that you held up, Through the Eyes of Love, he has located, it's for public knowledge because I'm saying it, and what are they going to do? Stop me? We're in the vault at Sony. There is a pristine live concert, and I listened to all of it.
Oh boy.
And it is so joyful. And we are going to figure out how, first of all, we can't get into the building. The buildings are locked down. So once buildings are open, once we ask politely, there's lots of stuff to release. And I'm really looking forward to that, because after we release Review, once all of those videos are released and it becomes ACD, to share, there's a new album, and then I'm going to do a new holiday album because I've only done one.
Yeah.
And so there's just lots of lovely stuff to do.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that terrific? I mean, when you look at this, you have not stopped. You have just kept going. You've had this forward movement, and it comes from, again, that passion and that hunger, like you said, that hunger that you have. And also, we've talked about this on the show too with various people. It's the desire to communicate with others, the desire to sort of leave the room better than you found it, want to touch people's lives through your experiences and share them through the music, the beauty of the music, and of course your glorious vocal tone and everything else. And I think when you have an opportunity to live a life where that is what you're doing, and you're doing it on such a grand scale, but when you go into the studio or when you're on stage, you're not thinking about the grand scale. You're thinking about the simplicity and authenticity of all of it. That's what people really relate to. They relate to that simplicity and that authenticity. And that's what makes it so relatable and long lasting for them, right?
Well, I believe so. And I think that is also the value and the power of songs. Not everybody can write a song, but if you write a song and somebody takes it as their own, and it becomes this life raft for them, this rope that they can hold onto and pull from the stormy waters of their life, then that is the unexpected service of what a song can be for people. And I know that to be true. And I certainly have heard that many times. And so, as my mother would say, it's not nothing.
I love that. I love that you keep going back to family. You keep going back. There's a full circle sort of, you very blessed to have had family in the early years like that, who really, they guided, but they didn't pull the string. They let you find yourself and find your place in this world and find your voice, with you knowing that they were there if you needed to step back and needed to, get some support or help or a lift, that they were there. That's a really beautiful thing. And you continue to pay homage to that, those early years, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think I was necessarily an easy kid to raise, because I was a big daydreamer. And I didn't realize I was daydreaming. I don't know, I would listen to the vacuum and just get lulled into whatever. But they, my mother's goal was just to get me through high school, get through high school, and then you can make a choice about the rest of your life. And at that point, and she was basically living in the guidance counselor's office, because I just couldn't, I was great in English. I couldn't fathom other things, And when she found out, because of my sweet guidance counselor, Mr. Bronstein, that I could graduate if I could get the same credits if I took typing as trigonometry, Typing, yes. Typing saved my life. Otherwise, I'd still be at the High School of Performing Arts trying to figure out trigonometry. And so it's the simple things, indeed.
It was the one T versus the other one.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it's exactly right.
What would you say, Melissa, glorious and wonderful Melissa, to somebody who's watching this, whether they're watching live right now or they're going to watch this later in the archives on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, who is considering now these days pursuing a career in the arts and or possibly with it being music? Now we're living in a time where there's all of these competition shows, you know, singing competitions and a lot of different, where one is here and one is here and they're sort of, you know, pitted against each other and things of that nature. How do you feel about all of that? That's a newer thing that has come in recent years. And what would you also say to somebody watching who may be, you know, maybe they need that little encouragement to follow their dreams?
Well, again, it's a new marketplace. You know, if you hold a flashlight under your face and you have a mic and you post yourself on YouTube, you could get 1 million hits. And then what happens?
Right.
So you know, it is not about the moment. It's about the journey.
Right.
And the thing about the journey, which is so exquisite and you can't know it until you stumble upon it, is, or it brings you to your knees sometimes, it is the journey where you will learn. It is the journey that will inform you of what lesson you were put on this earth to learn. And in my experience, you figure that out by the stuff that keeps repeating. If things keep repeating and it's a hit on the head on a brick wall, at some point you are required to stop hitting yourself on the brick wall and say, okay, this is happening over and over again. I need to learn something. So it's on me to slow down and learn it. And everybody on this planet has something to learn. This is what I've learned. And sometimes people will ask you to learn their lesson for them, and it doesn't work that way. Sorry. Which I say, I believe this belongs to you. Right. but it, you know, to those who would feel the hunger in their heart, you know, give it a shot. Work on your craft. Presume that when you write something, you are not writing for your friends and family that love you. Presume that you are writing for people who have never heard of you and are fickle. So really try to make what it is you're trying to say as clear as possible, and believe in it. But it's a journey. I mean, it's really something. You got to want it badly.
What are some of the things over the years that really surprised you the most along the way in your journey, Melissa?
I think one of the things that surprised me, and I cannot tell you how or why it happened, when I first started, you know, I was playing in real dreadful places, rough places, a lot of college coffee houses where the piano was facing the back wall.
Yeah.
And so I played with my back to the audience, and you know, again. And so I couldn't get myself heard. It felt like that. I couldn't get management to hear what my guts were trying, my soul was trying to articulate, and I didn't have the tools. And so there was a lot of hair pulling and a lot of torment and a lot of Sturm und Drang and a lot of reactive behavior. And along the way, something about that energy of being reactive sort of burned away, and it was simply not interesting to me to react that way.
Right.
And when I would, for instance, when I would realize that it was time to part from management, and, you know, management would say, "You'll be nothing without me." And instead of yelling back in kind, I learned to be quiet and simply say, "You might be right." To which they would say, "That's not what I meant." To which I would say, "It's exactly what you meant."
I like that. I like that. Is everybody listening? Write that down. She's giving you some terrific advice here, and
Well,
there's no copay.
yeah. Well, it's just interesting because that, I would consider that a miracle,
Yeah.
but I don't know what triggered it in me. I don't, it's like shedding a skin, an emotional skin, a spiritual skin.
Sure. Yeah.
As you mature and you understand the value of slowing your brain down, which I have learned is extraordinarily important. And I teach that to my students as much as possible. It's very hard when you're young to slow your brain down because you're like a puppy. Please love me. I'll sign this. I'll sing this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Trying to please everybody.
Right. Exactly. And so, yeah. So.
But you have to please yourself too. You have to please yourself first.
You do. And also, because I've been doing this so long, I dig getting older. I don't care that much about the aches and pains. I just value that the wisdom I have earned. And I know when somebody's still trying to talk me out of what I know to be true, and they can try. I just know who I am now. And that is worth hanging on for everything.
So that took time and life living for that to happen?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it doesn't come a moment before it's supposed to happen.
That's very, very true.
Not a nanosecond before it's supposed to happen.
That is really so true. One of the things I had learned was, because I tend to be like, sort of like a caretaker type, always running to help everybody else, put out all their fires, make sure they're happy and they have all their needs. And then I'll tend to mine. Is I always had an issue when, and it was an issue that was a self-applied issue, on an airplane when I would hear the flight attendant say, if there's ever a time where the oxygen, you need oxygen and those masks are going to drop if we have, a lowering pressure, put the mask on yourself first before you help the other person. And I was always of the ilk, wait a minute, that's selfish, that's greedy, help thy fellow man. No, I'm going to help her or him next to me, make sure they're all settled. And then I'll grab the mask and whatever oxygen is coming out and is left, I'll put it on me. And then I realized actually through experiences, and one of them was actually driving alone through Death Valley after I was on a TV shoot in Nevada, and I was in this rental car and I was driving through Pahrump, Nevada, which was really beautiful.
Yeah.
The TV shoot had wrapped up. The camera crew went back to Los Angeles, and my flight was supposed to go back east to, the New York area. And the TV shoot was all wrapped, and I had another maybe day and a half left, and I could have gone back to the hotel, but instead, being so visual like I am and liking to explore areas, we were in this town west of Vegas in the desert, Pahrump. I'm driving around, soaking it all up, and it's beautiful, and it's desert, and it's raw. And every time I made a turn, the car, for some reason, this energy kept bringing me to the entrance of Death Valley, which was really interesting because for me, my Zen place is generally like the ocean or, it couldn't have been the ocean because that's the Zen place. It couldn't have been the excitement of a city. It couldn't have been a lush forest or any of that. It had to be this strip desert of Death Valley for me to get this. And that was this energy being pushed into the desert when I didn't tell anybody. I'm in a rental car. There's no supplies, no charged cell phones. This wasn't mapped out, no water bottles, none of that. And it's August and it's already 110 degrees.
Yes, oh sure.
Las Vegas. And I something pushes me to go in because every time I'm driving through the town, I end up at this sign that says Death Valley. So I start driving in, and the minute I drive in, I felt this extreme heavy weight of guilt. And the guilt that I felt was that I didn't have loved ones and friends in the car with me sharing the experience. I'm a communal person. So I like to be in the movie theater and we're all in there together and we're all feeling the same thing when we're watching the Titanic sink. We're all feeling that raw emotion. there was no room for that to happen because I'm in this rental car alone, looking at monumental Death Valley and all of these incredible things I'm seeing, but I'm not sharing it with loved ones and friends. And there was this tremendous guilt washing over me that I wasn't having that happen. So I kept going and I felt these real cool energies of sort of like a divine, the pull of the earth and of Mother Nature, things that were larger than myself, sort of guiding me, saying, you got an option here, Jim. You could turn the car back and go to the hotel and relax, or you can keep going and see what happens. So as I kept going, I started to lose that guilt of not having the loved ones and friends experiencing this with me, this monumental experience of driving alone through Death Valley in August. It was sort of liberating in a way. And so I started driving through, drove all the way through, drove all the way back through the whole thing. It was absolutely unbelievable, life-changing in so many ways. And it ties so beautifully into what you just said. People said I should write a book about it too and everything when I get deeper into the story. But in a brief summary, what were some of the things you were left with when you decided in a rental car in August after a TV shoot with no friends or family in the area, no supplies, and just taking that rental car and driving into Death Valley haphazardly like that? What were you left with? I said 3 major things. One was that there will be experiences in my life that will happen where I'm the only one in the room. And that's okay. It doesn't always have to be shared or communal. It's something that is presented to me for me to savor and enjoy. So let yourself enjoy that. You don't have to wait and say, oh, I think we'll come back to Death Valley and I'll bring the loved ones and friends and then we'll experience it. That was the moment, I guess, for me to experience it then. The second thing was that the world will continue to spin on its axis, the earth, even if I don't continue to save it from itself all the time, rescue everybody, put out all the fires all the time, it will still spin. And the third is that I got to put the oxygen mask on myself first before I graciously run to put it on the other person. And those things are coming out of that experience, really. And I say it to people because I felt those energies of the raw earth, Mother Nature, and like a divine, things larger than myself sort of guiding me through. And I say, just like what you said, which was beautiful, and that's what triggered my story here, things will come when they're supposed to. I say, well, why didn't that happen, that life-changing event like that, where I came in touch with self, totally dependent, reliant on self, driving alone through Death Valley? Why didn't that happen when I was, 19, 25, 30, whatever, any of those ages? Everybody says, well, first you were offered a gift, and if it was earlier, you wouldn't have recognized it. You might have driven past it. You weren't ready for it. It wasn't something that you would have even probably received. You had to live life experiences to get.
That's exactly right.
To have that opportunity to go into that raw desert like that alone and come out of that with this being in touch with self and being enriched by it in this unique way. And
well, the other thing is that I hear exactly what you're saying. And the thing is, as much as you love your loved ones, you may have missed the gift if they were in the room.
That's what I've heard. That's what people are saying to me all the time. That's what, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've had opportunity, you've had gifts like that in your life where you were there. Yeah.
Well, I've lived so much of my life on the road that that I'm really okay living by myself and being by myself. And I need to be by myself when I'm writing because I need to be more than quiet. I need to get to stillness. And that's a whole deeper level that I've become intimate with. Yeah. And even when I was raising my kids, when they were little, everybody knew, because usually the grand piano was in the middle of the living room or whatever. You know, if mom was at the piano writing, nobody could hum and nobody could whistle. No humming, no whistling, please.
Right. Please. Yeah.
And they, you know, and so, okay, you know, it's just what we do. If mom's there, we're just kind of quiet and do our thing. And I always encourage my kids to sit near me and do their homework and stuff like that. It wasn't as if I was chasing anybody up, but the tonality of whistling or humming was just sort of, oh, wait a minute, don't. But yes, exactly. When the gift shows up for you, sometimes you start to notice, am I using, as much as I say I love people, and I do love people, am I using them to deflect or distract me from something that is meant just for me? And I think in our youth, we often do, because being part of a group sounds yummy and luscious, and it is fun, you know? But then when there are moments where you are supposed to receive the gift, nobody can be in the room. Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. Beautifully said. And I think we're on the same wavelength about so many different things. Dwight has been asking this throughout the evening. Please talk about Melissa's album, Mathematics. It's my all-time favorite.
Oh, Dwight, you're so funny. You and my students, they love the Mathematics album. Mathematics was very interesting. It was a highly electronic sounding production, because that was the style of the time. We were then in the disco era, and electronic music gave producers many more toys to play with. And that was so out of my league. That was one of those adventures that I signed up for and said, you know, okay, if the actual composition is solid and I can do it, you know, comfortably and find my way in, because I have a great big voice, you know, then the production, I can't sit in a room and listen to all of that electronics that much. So I said to my producers, you do this, I'll show up and pretend I'm the girl singer. You finish, I'll leave. And that's what I did. And I've listened to it recently, and I must say I do like a lot of the songs. The production is, again, you know, it is a real reflection of those times, which is kind of interesting. But it was interesting for me to make that deal with myself and just sort of loan myself out as the girl singer, because I was not terribly comfortable with all of that. But I liked the substance of the lyrics and the melodies of a lot of those songs. And so that's what I could hang on to. So it's not that I'm not grateful, I am, but it tickles me that people like it.
You know, it's amazing. There's a running theme here, and I'm sure the Lovity viewers who are watching around the world have picked up on this too. You really are, with all of the opportunities to have the riches and the glitz, the glam, the buzz, the bling, and the trappings of it all, you really are a very focused, centered, authentic, organic, real, substantive person. Substance means a lot to you. There's a lot of people who come through various industries, especially anything like what we do in the public eye, where that's not necessarily the place they come from. It's more of going towards whatever is just that quick flavor of the month, that quick thing, whatever brings me the riches and the fame and the buzz and the bling. You're definitely, and just in listening to these stories, and I think it's a blessing for the folks that are watching, because they're getting a deeper understanding and appreciation for you and the years put in, the blood, sweat, and tears, the toil, the passion, the time, the effort. One of the things we do in these industries is to make it all look so effortless and so easy, but all of the work, the stress, the worry, and everything like you talked about tonight that goes into it is what makes the art come alive. I love the fact that you express yourself in a way that is so inspiring, deep, and again, you really are a true woman of real substance.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, for me, I stand on the shoulders of such great godmothers and godfathers of music. And so I bring them forward with me, whether it's Ella, whether it's Sinatra, whether it's Tony Bennett, whether it's Nat Cole, whether it's Johnny Hartman that people have forgotten. And so that is the stuff that heals and celebrates and informs. And that is the world that I want to occupy. And that is the lane I want to travel. And yes, I can have these chapters and have these artistic adventures, but I know what I come back to, because I know what my home feels like in my heart. And I also know that as much as people like to dance and jump to the electronic stuff, and that's a lot of fun and that's great, it's fun to service that. I also know that when people tell me that my songs have helped them through hard times, or given them clarity, or given them a way to celebrate, that is where I live, because that's what music has done for me. So that I can bring that forward is the greatest privilege of all.
And man, do we thank you for that, Melissa Manchester. Man, do we thank you. Oh my God. You are absolutely a delight and a joy and a true blessing. And I like I say, a national treasure in so many ways. And I know you're very humble about hearing all of that, but I just want to thank you for everything that you've done, and you've done it for all the right reasons. And you've made some fabulous choices in your life, and you continue, which I love, which I've noticed as well. You pay homage and heed to those before who paved the way. Like you said, rested on the shoulder of these people, all the way from the family to others that have paved the way in the industry. You're very cognizant of that. And that's a beautiful thing, because sometimes, we're living in a time where everything is either now or next, now or next. And there's no time to, or it's old fashioned to look back at folks who built the bridges and built the roads for us. But I think it's really important to do that. And it's beautiful that you do that. And I'm sure you instruct your students to do that as well, right?
Well, you hope so. I mean, the way I try to explain it is, if you don't, then it's as if you're only eating sugar. You need to feast on everything. You need to get the nutrients of as much as you can that informed the path to where you are now.
Right.
And I think it has so rewarded and informed my life, and I was very fortunate because music was playing in the house all the time, and I want that nourishment for people. Because the world without music, the world without Mozart, the world without Sinatra, the world without the Beatles, it's impossible. It's impossible. And you can't define what all of those people, those artists, bring to the world, but they make the world better, and so.
And also which we're trying to do on this show, bringing back the lost art of conversation, taking time to converse, right?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yes. Well, as you can tell, I love conversation.
I do too. Too. And as they're saying here, you are now officially a lovety.
I'm delighted. Thank you so much. That's so precious.
I mean, the Grammy's nice, but a lovety?
Oh, lovety is, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. That's so kind.
Absolutely. That's from Catalina in New York. Bernadette says, thank you, Melissa, for such an eloquent and interesting chat as well. Dwight says, that was a fun, remarkable interview. Thank you very much. I mean, beautiful comments here. Kathy Short in Cleveland, Ohio. Melissa, you seem like such a laid back person. It is refreshing Elizabeth says, Melissa, thank you so much for your joy. You are a gift to us all.
Oh,
I second and third that. You absolutely are. And I just think that it's really spectacular that you were able to spend this time with us, and you're continuing to create, you're continuing to grow and touch our lives, even through, now more than ever with everything that we've been going through.
mhm.
Music is very healing, and it's unifying, and it's a universal language. And,
Yes,
and we need it now truly more than ever.
more than ever.
Fernando
Mhm.
says, to quote Paul Simon, you were born at the right time.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was a wonderful conversation, and take with a love heart there too, as a levity. I certainly hope that the show met your expectations, and you are absolutely welcome back anytime to discuss
Thank you.
projects, anything that's coming up. If folks want to learn more and check things out that you're working on, and
Yes,
where can they go?
yes, go on my Facebook page, melissamanchester.com. There you will see all of the videos. You'll see Just You and I and Midnight Blue. You'll see Awake. Everything is downloadable on iTunes and Amazon and all of those lovely platforms. And yeah, take the journey with me.
I like that. Take the journey with me. That's a beautiful way to put it. And saw a comment that come in here that says, "Please come back, Melissa."
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing forth the art of conversation again. It's lost. It is really lost. And I'm with you. I watched Jack Parr and had the privilege of being on the Carson show several times. And it's rare to be able to discuss at length things, and it's lovely.
Oh, I agree. Ralph quickly just said he would love to hear about working with Rupert Holmes. Not sure the younger audience knows who he is.
Well, Rupert Holmes, although I think that he will be always known for,
Yeah,
he
sure.
wrote the Pina Colada song.
That's
If
right.
you like Pina
Pina
Colada.
coladas.
Right. And he also won multiple Tony Awards for his musical, The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which he composed, wrote the lyrics for, did all the orchestrations and the arrangements for. It's pretty spectacular. Rupert had sort of mentored Sharon and I at the beginning of writing Sweet Potato Queens. And then one thing led to another, and we begged him to write the book. And he said, and Rupert is a very busy writer. He's writing novels and television specials and plays and musicals and all that. And he said, let me look at all of your notes. Let me listen to the songs you've already written, and let me think about how to tell this story. Because again, this is Sweet Potato Queens is based loosely on a collection of 5 books by Jill Connor Brown. And he called 2 weeks later and he said, I know how to tell this story. Yippee! And he did. And he was such a pro to work with. He was, I heard in the tradition of the great Abe Burrows, who people may or may not know, he was a stunning book writer. He wrote the book, for, among other things, for How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And Abe and his son Jim Burrows, who is a television director for Cheers and many other shows.
Right.
Well, Rupert, in the same way, when the show would be up, he would listen to the dialogue with his eyes closed, because he was listening for the timing and the delivery and the nuance. And I thought, well, I'm really in the presence of a master. And it was true. It was true. It was wonderful to work with him, really.
That's a glorious story.
Yeah.
Just wanted to show you a couple of quick things here that people are saying, which I think are absolutely beautiful. And Elizabeth says, thank you for so much joy. You're a gift to us all. I think that is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Sherry says, another amazing night, Jim and Melissa. Thank you for coming to Lovity Hall. And please come back soon, Melissa.
Thank you, Sherry. That's so kind. Thanks.
Really beautiful. And I was watching this one earlier. I think this is beautiful what Diana says. Would love to be one of your students, a truly wonderful human being and teacher, artist. Thank you. That's
Oh,
beautiful. Yeah.
thanks. You know, I usually teach when I'm performing at a performing arts center on a university campus. Usually I will give a master class the night before. And that's frequently how it works.
Yeah.
When I record at Citrus College, because when you see the video of Just You and I use their choir and I use their pop student band. So they are getting student credit for all of that. And it was great to work with them because they are so beautifully trained, and it's really thrilling to be around young students and to feel that energy.
Absolutely. Llewellyn, who's in the Palm Springs, California area, so glad we see the real you and to tell us your journey, such a refreshing person. Juanita, who's still with us late into the hours of the early morning in South Africa. Melissa, you were perfectly splendid. Thank you for your time. It was a wonderful conversation. Keep well.
You too, Juanita, and thank you so much.
Willie, who's in the Netherlands, where it's about 3:30 a.m. there. Thanks, Melissa, for your stories. She's
thank you, Willie.
A real trooper. Was very excited to be here with us today. And a couple more here from Tina. Thank you for sharing with us, Lovedies, this evening. You are a beautiful, talented soul. Mm-hmm. Bernadette also says, you were teaching here tonight. My teen, her teen is also in music, is riveted.
Yay!
Yeah.
That's
Christine
great.
In North Carolina. I think after our spectacular night with Melissa, she could become a double Lovedy.
That is an honor, to be sure.
Marilyn, who is in Wichita, Kansas, says, thank you, Melissa, for your time and sharing your story as well. Kathleen in New York City. Thanks, Melissa. Stay safe. Thank you for your music. Such a nice lady. And you are a beautiful soul, my friend. And again, I hope that this show met your expectations and you enjoyed your time with me as much as I have with you.
I did so much. It was really lovely. And I thank all of the viewers around the world for hanging with us. It was just as delightful as could be.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You are welcome. And you're welcome back anytime. And I hope you have a beautiful holiday. And I hope maybe when you're back east or I'm on the West Coast, maybe on a TV shoot or something, we'll get together and break bread. I would love to do that, Melissa.
Wonderful. Oh, that would be grand. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate that.
Blessings.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays and keep creating. We love you, Melissa.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for all the time. You were very gracious.
Of course. My pleasure.
Bye-bye now. Melissa Manchester, absolutely extraordinary, right here, exclusively on the Jim Masters Show Live. Yes, Bernadette, I agree 100%. Thank you so much, Melissa. You are a lovely spirit, and thank you, Melissa, for your time and sharing your story. Really beautiful. Happy Thanksgiving, Melissa, Bernadette. Thank you very much. Great comments as well. And you can go on her website, melissamanchester.com. We played Awake because that's something very, very special and brand new that she's working on, because a lot of you know her other music already, which you can hear, on all the other platforms and YouTube and everywhere else. But we wanted to play something special. We wanted to have a really good conversation with her too. Because that way you get a chance to learn maybe about folks that perhaps you've always admired, and you get to learn a little bit more about their life and their passions and the ups and the downs. And that can really be relatable and very inspirational to all of us, right? So here we had an extraordinary conversation, about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is very rare. You really don't get conversations and shows that last that long these days. And I just think it's a beautiful thing to have an opportunity to do that. And Awake is a really beautiful project. And if you missed that video we played earlier, which was really breathtaking, you can see this episode with my very special guest, the one and only Melissa Manchester, right here on the YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. You can share the link. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We have so much more coming up, so many more guests, lots of levity and lovity, lots of great inspiring conversations, entertainment. Again, we talk about everything here: health and wellness and music and television and film and Broadway and comedy and history and life, even food and pets and children and on location and so much more. This is what you call an entertainment lifestyle talk show series that is done like some of the folks that she talked about earlier, the Jack Parr, the Johnny Carson, Mike Douglas, David Susskind, Dick Cavett, a little bit, going a little bit deeper with the conversations, really learning about the person. And at the same time, I get to express things. You guys get to express things. Our guest is expressing things. And it's one big, beautiful circle of levity, which I think is cool. And then we play some music or we show clips. So we do a lot of other, window dressing. But it really is finding out about the individual who's here on the show with us, and to have this special time with them and with all of you, because we appreciate every single one of you who watches this show night after night. 30 weeks we've been doing this show, over 200 plus episodes. Really extraordinary. And Melissa Manchester really is a national treasure. Singer, songwriter, Grammy winner. And as you can see, if you just knew her from the music, from that outstanding voice, from the songs that you love so much, many of which you've talked about tonight: Don't Cry Out Loud, Through the Eyes of Love, the music on the Mathematics album, and on and on and on. You should hear how she talks about you, all those fabulous, great songs, right? And so much more. You got an opportunity to really learn about the person behind all of that music, what motivates her. And if you notice, which I really love, she really pays homage and heed to the people that gave her the opportunities, the people that set the way for her. I mean, she's mentioned Paul Simon, Barry Manilow, Bette Midler, her parents, so many others along the way. And I think when you do that, when you recall and you celebrate those who've paved the way to give you opportunities and open doors for you, I think it's extraordinary. I'm a big believer in that. Even in my career in television and radio and more, I always look to the people who sort of, put up the towers and got things on the air before we ever came along, because I think that's beautiful. And I hope I continue to pay it forward to others who are looking to go into these industries as well. So we really have some fantastic times here on this show. And the fact that all of you get to converse with us and express yourselves. And again, I think that this was, even myself, knowing as much about Melissa as I did, and of course we did extra research for this show and put a lot of time and effort into the program, I learned so much just from having the conversation with Melissa. And I've always loved her work, always appreciated her wit and wisdom, but along with you, got an even deeper appreciation for her body of work and for who Melissa Manchester truly is. And that is cool, because a lot of times, when you have an interview, you have a couple of basic questions that are always asked. They play a song or two. What'd you do? What was it like when you did that song? What was it like when you did that song? And that's it. And then you're done in 20 minutes? We really get into the heart of it here on the show. And that just happens, not by design, really. It just happens. And I think that's really, really cool. So let's look back at some of the quick comments here before we get ready to wrap up our extraordinary episode. This was a memorable episode as well. Last night, too, if you didn't see Tony and Grammy winning actor John Lloyd Young with us last night, boy, did we have an epic conversation and a lot of laughs. He was live from Los Angeles as well, and he was fantastic. Of course, you know him in the original Jersey Boys, as well as the movie. He was also on Glee and so much more. He was so comfortable and relaxed in his home. What's really cool about what we're doing with this series? A lot of the guests, especially now, they're in their homes. So you get an opportunity to actually see them comfortable in their home, in their environment. And in this case, with Melissa, She had all that beautiful artwork, and she gave you the story about, she grew up with art around the house with her parents growing up in New York City. And you got a chance to see some of the room, and that's cool. It's sort of like taking you inside behind the scenes. And that's what we love doing here on the show, not just chatting only about some of the things that we all know already, but digging a little deeper and having a lot of fun and respect as we do it as well. Bernadette says, thank you, Jim. Yet another uplifting show. Thank you very much. William Wood, thanks for joining us, William. I hope you like our series. We're here every night with extraordinary guests. We have Gabriel Barre, who's here tomorrow. He is a brilliant actor and international director. He is here tomorrow. And then we have Cindy Sasson-Braff, and she is an extraordinary theatrical director, actress. She's even a psychic medium as well. And she's going to be on Tuesday, and that's going to be really cool. And so many more extraordinary guests that are coming up. Dwight, thank you very much. Yes, for suggestions for guests that you have as well. I appreciate that. Tina says, thank you, Jim. You're a kind soul. Hugs from the Poconos. The Poconos. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you've been joining us here on the Jim Master Show live as well. Kathleen Walker says, thank you, Jim. This was great. I'm so happy that you were with us too, because I know you're a big fan of Melissa's as well. Dinah says, thank you, Jim. Super interview with Melissa. Enjoy your holidays. You as well. Thank you very much. You have great holidays as well. Sherry says, was so looking forward to the show tonight with Melissa. You never disappoint us, Jim. You are the absolute best. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sherry. That means a lot. Mona is here. Good to see you, Mona. Happy Thanksgiving, Melissa, Jim, and everyone. Willie says, good night. See you with kisses and stars. Melissa, night, night. She's all zen. Happy Thanksgiving to Melissa from Bernadette. And of course, we try to show as many comments during the show. Sometimes, they scroll by a little too fast. We don't get a chance to see all of them. I do see them later. And the guest does as well, because people will watch this show live, but a lot of people watch it later. There's hundreds and hundreds of people who have been watching the John Lloyd Young episode that we did yesterday live right now on the YouTube channel. Over 600 people, I think, so far in just 24 hours, which is extraordinary. We have a lot of people that have been watching tonight as well, and we welcome all of you. You can share this show with friends and family, direct them to our YouTube channel. Dwight says, happy Thanksgiving. You too, Dwight. Thanks for joining us. And I'm so glad you joined us ever since we had actor Glenn Scarpelli on as well. Renee in Iowa says, thank you, Melissa. This has been a very interesting show. Thanks for being on here to share with us. Thank you, Renee. Good night, all lovelies. God bless us all. Absolutely. You too, Dante. Juanita in South Africa. Jim, this was a wonderful show. Very enjoyable. Thanks for creating this platform. It is really uplifting to everyone. Thank you very much, Juanita. We appreciate you being out there late into the hour in South Africa, almost early morning for you, right? Marilyn, sticking with us in Wichita, Kansas. Good night, Jim, and thank you for all you bring to our living rooms. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. The panda. We will bring the panda back maybe tomorrow. You miss Lin, right? Because we've got all the rest here. I know you guys love George Burns, so George is here. George loved this conversation. George is a big Melissa Manchester fan, so George loved it as well. And I know you guys love Jeannie. So Jeannie is here in her bottle. There she is. And she says, good night to all of you as well. Who else do we have here? Gilligan, sent to us by the wonderful Dreamer Denver, wife of Bob Denver, who was a guest on our show. And she said, you got to have a Gilligan doll on your set, Jim Masters. So she sent Gilligan. Aloha, Jim, Dreamer Denver. A beautiful, beautiful. And he wiggles too. Did you have a good time, Gilligan? He loved it. And Jimmy is here as well. Jimmy says good night. Jimmy had a good time. You got to put smiles on people's faces, right? We have a good time with all this. The huge panda that we have here that's about this big, so wide, I think it's beyond my arm length here. We'll bring back maybe tomorrow, sitting right over there. That's Lin. And this is, of course, Silver, the Silver Lab, who's joining us each night as well. We got this wonderful lab on a TV shoot while we were in Europe. And it was absolutely fantastic. I see a lot of cool comments here, and let's see what we can do. bring some up here. Melissa is a beautiful human being. Her heart is giving. Her talent is immense. She gives much joy to the world. I agree 100%. Thank you, Jane, for watching, and I hope you'll join us again on the YouTube channel. We're here every day on YouTube. Don't forget, you can also find me on YouTube at Jim Masters TV, Facebook at Jim Masters TV, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and Twitch at Jim Masters TV. So feel free to follow, like, subscribe. I usually do that back too. I think, we should all help each other. Elizabeth says, good night, Jim. Great show. Thank you, Elizabeth. And Jonna says she is a person who has shown up to support worthy causes over the years. She is a national treasure. Join us in nominating her for a Kennedy Center Award. I agree 100%. I would nominate her for sure. Your research on your guests is impeccable and impressive. Thank you, Fernando. I really appreciate that. That's the journalistic background that I have been an anchor and news reporter for a long time as well. So I just have a real passion for learning about people and sharing them with others. Llewellyn says, definitely hit it out of the park once more, Jim. Fantastic interview. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Llewellyn, you stay safe there in California. Mary Bishop in Florida. Good night, everyone. Another great show. Take care. You as well. Thanks for all these beautiful comments. This really is amazing. Don't forget, as we said with a wonderful guest, Melissa Manchester, don't forget to relax, to breathe, to take care of one another, love one another, and make sure you put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on somebody else, because you need the oxygen to be able to put it on somebody else. It's something I learned. I shared just briefly that Death Valley story again. I wanted to share it with Melissa because I knew she would get it. She sounds to be, feels very much like a kindred spirit in the way she thinks, very kindred with how I think about life. So relax, think about the constants, the blessings. We have Thanksgiving coming up here in the United States. It's been an interesting year. There's been a lot of loss and a lot of sadness, but there are blessings and there are constants in life that we can all celebrate and we can cherish. I cherish and celebrate all of you all the time as well, and my loved ones and friends and my career and the things that I have that I've earned and that I've created or what have you. They are blessings, and the ability to do that are blessings as well. Mona says, good night, Jim and everyone. Great show. Thanks for being here. As always, Lovity. You too. You too. Good night, Lovities. Be safe. See you tomorrow evening. We will be here 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will be here. Juanita says, good night, everyone. Keep well. Thank you, Juanita. Pamela Perkle, I enjoyed this. Have a great night. I've been knitting and listening. I love that. I love that. That is double Lovity. That is beautiful. And Christine says, thanks, Jim, for this beautiful, entertaining, inspirational conversation. Thanks to Melissa sharing her insights and her musical talents over so many years. She has a passion, such a passion, and is now a Lovity. Did you see how she really loved becoming a Lovity? All of the guests, when I tell them they're going to be called a Lovity, they're like, my God, I love that. I love that. I've never had that before. I've won Tonys and Grammys and Emmys, but I've never been a Lovity. I said, well, it's going to happen tonight on our show. And the guests love it. And I love it too. I'm so glad that I stumbled on that word by accident, right? Yes, we are working on t-shirts, hats, mugs, things of that nature that will have some really cool logos on it. And Lovity. Good night, Jim. You are beloved. Thank you very much, Bernadette. So are you. And so are all of you. Renee says, hope everyone has a good night. You too, Renee. You stay safe. You be well, you and your family. I appreciate that. Tina says, good night, Jim and everyone. Wishing you all peace and much lovity. See you tomorrow night. We love hearing that, Tina. Absolutely. Diana says, John Lloyd Young, Melissa Manchester interviews. Just excellent, Jim. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. About a week or so ago, we had actor Glenn Scarpelli on. He was in One Day at a Time on CBS in the 70s. And we had also Kathy Garver, who was Sissy on Family Affair. We have Alison Arngrim coming up on November 30th. And that's a week from tomorrow. And she played Nellie Olson in Little House on the Prairie. She's coming on next week. Good night, Jim and everyone. Kathleen Walker. And Bernadette, rest well, everyone. Stay safe, stay well. You as well. And don't forget a couple of things here. Just roll quickly through some of these fabulous photos here. That's Melissa and her dad. Isn't that a great shot? Dionne Warwick, and going back in time a little bit here. Some extraordinary, and I love her reflections and her comments about the various time periods in her life. Of course, there's Don't Cry Out Loud. And she's got a great sense of humor too. She's got a wonderful understanding of life and of the human spirit and the human condition. And obviously you can hear that in her music and everything that she does. It's cool shots, huh? I really love that one. We used that one in the introduction. There's something about that one that's just, isn't it like she's looking at almost like a newborn baby or a puppy or just a flower or maybe a nice piece of chocolate cake? She just looks so content and happy and very just centered there in that shot. They really captured something in her eyes and her expression. Through the Eyes of Love, yes. My dad loves that song. He also loves Softly as I Leave You. That's another really great song. John Gary sang that. Andy Williams sang that. So many people sang that. But this one is another. I love this song too, Through the Eyes of Love. That's the theme to Ice Castles. If you haven't heard it in a while, you should go back and hear it. And all of her material. Of course, these are some of the widely known, but there's so much material. Here she is with Bob Hope and Dionne Warwick, of course, the wonderful Barry Manilow, who she's worked with, collaborated with as well, and Midnight Blue. Of course, we talked about Midnight Blue as well. And again, all of that you can find on her website and YouTube and everywhere else as well. We had more of a really good conversation tonight, which I thought was absolutely awesome with the one and only Melissa Manchester. Don't forget, as we always say here on the show, everybody, to smile and put a smile on the faces of others whenever you can. Don't forget to share the levity. That's right. We're all about levity. And find your Zen place. Mine is the ocean, of course, with loving family and friends, cycling, tennis, writing, music, my career in the television and radio industry and stage and all the great things I have an opportunity to do and the people I have an opportunity to work with as well. I absolutely love and I'm blessed to be able to do the things that I do in our industries. And of course, we always appreciate you. And there's a lot to appreciate with this show. Absolutely. A great show is double levity kind of evening. Good night, Jim Masters and all levity friends. You as well. Smiles from Willie. Since Willie is still with us at 20 to 4 a.m., I think it is. There's your tulips, Willie. There you go. I know you love your tulips. We have them right here. We had them behind us before. And Mona says, love the pictures. Thank you so much for sharing. It was a great night. Sending hugs and love to everyone. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time till next time. Again, coming up, we have some amazing artists. And a week from now, we have Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie Olson on Little House on the Prairie, coming up. Tomorrow night, we have Gabriel Barre. He is incredible. He's an amazing actor, international director. He is all excited to be here. And then we have actor and theatrical producer and choreographer and dancer, author, and also psychic medium. This is going to be an amazing show on Tuesday. Cindy Zone Braff is going to be with us on Tuesday. Don't forget, on December 12th, the one and only singer-songwriter Keith Harkin is going to be here. He's originally, of course, from Ireland, lives in LA, but right now he is touring Portugal, not touring as far as really, on tours, because none of that's really happening, but he is with his wife and child, and they are in Portugal right now. So on December 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, he is going to be on our show. And that's on December 12th. He used to be with Celtic Thunder, of course. We have Darren Holden, who was with Riverdance and also is in the High Kings. I've interviewed him multiple times on public television. And he has a brilliant solo career as a singer-songwriter. He's going to be here as well. And so many more guests. Again, we thank the wonderful, the incomparable Melissa Manchester for joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live. She was a real delight, a joy. She was very open. She was very authentic, and she was extraordinary. We always look forward to the amazing people you bring us, Jim. My pleasure. My pleasure. I really appreciate it. And again, Melissa Manchester was extraordinary. She loves to talk, she said. So do I. And we were a perfect match. We really had a great time. Don't forget as well to share the lovely, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would love that, and share the channel as well. We house all of our shows there. All the shows are archived on our YouTube channel. So that is Jim Masters TV, which you're on right now. So feel free. And if you want to see any of the past episodes, they are all there as well. And of course, we thank you very much for joining us here on the show. Everybody around the world, all the lovelies, you truly are the very, very best. And another comment coming in here. Renee says, thanks again, Melissa and Jim. Loved this show. Our pleasure, Renee, our pleasure. It really was a joy. And can't wait to have her back one of these days. All the guests are always welcome to come back. We try to be an open and welcoming broadcast here for everybody. And I think it's working out really beautifully. So you guys take care. You have a wonderful rest of your day. We're going to sign off for now. And this was a blast. It was a pleasure. And thanks for participating in the show today here at our program called The Jim Masters Show Live, Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show Series. We toast all of you. Nothing left. Well, maybe just a little bit of that lemonade left. You guys have a wonderful night. One more comment coming in, and then we're going to take off. Joseph says, I love Melissa's music. Good to have you with us, Joseph. Thank you very much. If you missed anything, you can see this entire exclusive conversation with our wonderful guest, Melissa Manchester, here on the Jim Masters Show Live, right here on YouTube at Jim Masters TV. You can see all of the shows archived, 30 weeks of incredible content. Good night, all. Thanks for all the lovity from around the world. We love you. Melissa had a wonderful time. We both thank you for being with us. You take care. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll be on YouTube and Facebook tomorrow with a very special guest. You be well. You take care. And thanks for being with us on the Jim Masters Show Live. Good night.